Hello, today's lesson is about could have, should have, and would have. Let's start. These past modal verbs are all used hypothetically to talk about things that didn't really happen in the past. Hypothetically means based on your imagination. They are not real, okay? So these are not real situation, let's say. Let's have a look at this first form. Could have plus past participle. What is past participle? Past participle means the verb number 3 or third form of the verb. For example, do, did, done. So done is past participle, for example. Number 1, could have plus past participle means that something was possible in the past, was possible in the past. I mean, there was a kind of possibility or probability of the action in the past, or you had the ability to do something in the past. You have today, had in the, past. You had the ability to do it, which means that you could do it, but that you didn't do it. You didn't do it, or you couldn't do it, but you could. You had the chance, you had the opportunity, but you didn't. For example, I could have stayed up late, but I decided to go to bed early. So it means that I had the chance to stay up late, but I went to bed early. They could have won the race, but they didn't try hard enough. They could have won the race, which means that they had the potential, they had the possibility or capability of winning the race. They could do it, but they didn't try hard enough. They didn't try hard. Julie could have bought the book, but she borrowed it from the library instead. All right, which means that Julie had the chance, had the opportunity to buy the book from the bookstore, for example, which means that she had money to buy it, but she didn't buy it. Instead, she borrowed it from library. Possible. He could have studied harder, but he was too lazy, and that's why he failed the exam. Again, he had the opportunity, he had the chance to study a lot, to study harder than this, but he didn't because he was too lazy. Next one talks about couldn't have plus past participle, which means it means that something wasn't possible in the past, even if you had wanted to do it. You wanted to do it, but it wasn't possible. There was no chance. There was no chance to do it. For example, I couldn't have arrived any earlier. I couldn't have arrived any earlier. For example, you're late today and you say, I'm late, but I couldn't have arrived earlier than this because there was a terrible traffic jam, because there was a traffic. I couldn't come early. I couldn't come earlier than this. It was impossible for me to have arrived any earlier. I wanted to be on time. I wanted to be, but traffic didn't let me to be on time. Next one says, he couldn't have passed the exam even if he had studied harder. It is a really, really difficult exam, which means, of course, he wanted to pass the exam. He wanted to, but because the exam was very difficult, very hard, he couldn't pass the exam. So we can say he couldn't have passed the exam because the exam was difficult. He wanted to, but it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible because of the difficulty of the examination. Number 2, in English, We use could have plus past participle when we want to make a guess about something that happened in the past. We want to guess something, predict something, anticipate something. In this case, we don't know if what we are saying is true or not true. We don't know, we just guess. We assume that it can be correct or incorrect. We just guess, predict. Not, this is not real. We are just talking about our opinion of what maybe happened. We are not sure. For example, why is John late? Why? For example, we say maybe there is a traffic, maybe he is ill, maybe there is a problem. So we predict the situation. We predict the probable situation. For example, we can say he could have got stuck in traffic. Maybe he's stuck in traffic. So by the form of could have plus past participle, we can create such sentences. He could have got stuck in traffic. He could have forgotten that we were meeting today. Maybe he forgot. Or he could have overslept. He slept more than usual. That's why he's late. We can also choose to use might have plus past participle to mean the same thing. So sometimes instead of saying could have, you can say might have. They are the same. For example, we can say he might have got stuck in traffic, maybe. So might is the past form of may. Understand? He might have forgotten that we were meeting today, or he might have overslept, for example. Should have plus past participle. What is this? Number one, should have plus past participle can mean something that would have been a good idea, but that you didn't do it. It's like giving advice about the past when you say it to someone else, or regretting what you basically did or didn't do when you are talking about yourself. Very complicated, huh? So imagine there was a good idea in the past, okay, a good suggestion, a good opinion, a good idea, but for any reason, you didn't do it. For example, and also look at this form, shouldn't have plus past participle means that something wasn't a good idea, but you did it anyway. Understand? So in other words, if you say should have, could have, might have, must have positively, okay, you didn't do it. But if you say shouldn't have, couldn't have, mustn't have, wouldn't have, you did it. Understand? Negative, if it is negative, the other one is positive, or vice versa. For example, I should have studied harder. I should have studied harder, but I didn't. It means that I didn't study very hard, and so I failed the exam. I am very sorry, truly sorry about this now. I had the opportunity. I could study harder, but I didn't. Which means that studying hard, studying a lot was a good idea, but I didn't do it. Number two, I should have gone to bed early. I should have gone. There was a good idea. Going to bed early was a good idea, but I didn't do it. I didn't go to bed early, and now I am tired. That's why it was a good idea. I shouldn't have eaten so much cake. So I shouldn't have eaten so much cake means I ate so much cake, but I shouldn't have eaten. I shouldn't have eaten, but I ate. Understand? So it means I did eat a lot of cake, and now I don't feel good. I have a stomachache, actually. Next, you should have called me when you arrived, but you didn't. You didn't call me and I was worried about you. I wish that you had called me, but you didn't. So in other words, it was a lovely idea. It was a good idea, a good suggestion, opinion to call me, but you didn't. That's why I say you should have called me, but you didn't. John should have left early. Then he wouldn't have missed the plane. He should have left early, but he didn't do it. Number two, we can also use should have plus past participle to talk about something that if everything is normal and okay, we think has already happened. If everything is normal, everything is okay, we think that it has already happened. But we are not certain that everything is fine. We are not certain. We are not sure. We are not sure. We say if everything is good. So we use should have and not the present perfect or past simple. We don't use present perfect. It's often used with by now. So this is another, form. Imagine like that. Let me explain through the example. His plane should have arrived by now. So maybe we are worried about him. We are worried about the situation. That's why we say, it is very late. His plane should have arrived by now, but he hasn't arrived, or it hasn't arrived yet. Understand? Which means if everything is fine, if there is no problem, the plane has arrived, but maybe there's a problem. Another example, John should have finished work by now, but he hasn't finished yet. We assume, we think, we predict that John should have finished his work by now, but in reality, he didn't. In other words, if everything is normal, is okay, there's no problem, John has finished work, but we don't know. We have to ask John why he is late, for example. We can also use this to talk about something that would have happened if everything was fine, but hasn't happened. Okay. For example, Lucy should have arrived by now, but she hasn't. We don't know. We have to make sure. We have to ask Lucy about the reason. What was the reason that she has been late, for example. Next one, would have plus past participle. Number one, of course, would have is a kind of part of the third conditional, of course. Remember third conditional? If I had enough money, conditional type 3, I would have bought a car, but I didn't have enough money, so I didn't buy a car. So something happened, could happen in the past. Of course, it is impossible to happen. Imagine like that, but it didn't happen because it was impossible, because I didn't have enough money, so I could not buy any car or something. Number two, because would and will can also be used to show if you want to do something or not, like volition. Volition means the power of deciding, the power of making a decision to decide to do something. We can also use would have plus past participle to talk about something you wanted to do but didn't. This is very similar to the third conditional, but we don't need an if clause. Understand? It is very, the formula is very similar to third conditional type of sentences, but we don't use if clause. Let's have a look. I would have gone to the party, but I was really busy. Understand? There is no if clause. I would have gone to the party, but I was really busy, which means I didn't go to the party. So in other words, we can say, I wanted to go to the party. I wanted to, but I didn't because I was busy. So being busy was the reason why I didn't go or I couldn't go to the party. Which means, again, if I hadn't been so busy, if I was free, I would have gone to the party. Yeah, definitely. Next one. I would have called you, but I didn't know your number. So because I didn't have your number, because I didn't know your number, I couldn't call you. That is the reason. In other words, I really wanted to call you. I really wanted to call you, but I didn't know your number. So I didn't call you, unfortunately. A, nobody volunteered to help us. B, I would have helped you, but I didn't know you needed help, which means that you didn't tell me anything about it. You didn't tell me anything about it. So if I had known that you needed help, if I had known that you needed help by any kind of reason, by any kind of way, method, I would have helped you. But I didn't help you because I didn't know it. Understand? Fantastic. That's it, guys. I hope it was useful. Maybe in the future, I can just share some link, like, for example, Kahoot questions. So always check the description. If there's a kind of link, click on that and then practice your grammar or grammatical situation, grammatical things on Kahoot. Until next time, live long and prosper. Take care.